Hello and welcome to TCG Deck Tech. Today we're gonna do a deck deep dive on my Hecarim Ephemerals deck. So this will not be a gameplay video, this will be a video where I talk about every single card and what they're gonna do in this deck and how this will work in combination with each other. And yeah, just how this deck is built in general. So if you want to see me play this deck, you can either watch my video where I deck tested the deck for the first time, which I will link in the description, but you could also watch me play some ranked games with this deck, also in the description. So yeah, this is Hecarim's Ephemerals deck, so as the name suggests, and there I put out a Silent Shadows here, I should do that, should put that back in. So basically, this is a deck that works with these ephemeral creatures. Ephemeral creatures are units that die when the round ends, and we have some synergies that make them really strong. But yeah, we will see then when we look through the deck. First of all, I have Fading Memories. Fading Memories is a card I just put into the deck a few days ago. You can pick a follower and create an ephemeral copy of it in hand. You can pick your own follower, but you could also create your opponent's follower. So that's very nice if your opponent has a card that has, when it enters the battlefield, draw a card, for example, or stuff like that. Just some nice abilities that you want to use. It's especially powerful when you use the Dedmark with it, because with Dedmark you remove ephemeral from your unit to grant it to an opponent's unit. So you can use the stolen unit to basically kill themselves on the other side and just have it work for you. So that's a very nice combo you can use. I do only have 2 of Fading Memories in deck because sometimes your opponent doesn't have that great of a follower to pick. Sometimes they play a lot of champions, sometimes they just don't have anything on the board that you want to steal. But 2 of them are pretty good. I think it's a nice thing you can do. It does cost you no mana, but you need to pay the whole mana from the unit you stole. Sometimes you could steal really big stuff, so it's a nice late game card. It's also a nice mid and early game card in case you just want to get a blocker in combination with the Dedmark. So yeah, mid and late game is where this card shines. Black Spear, it's a nice removal spell. For 2 mana you deal 3 damage to an enemy unit if an ally died this round. Since you have ephemeral units, you will have a lot of allies die in your round, so you can use it a lot of times, and it's just a very nice removal piece for the early and mid game especially, but also for the late game you can sometimes get rid of some creatures you wouldn't otherwise be able to get rid of. Haunted Relic is just summon 3 Unleashed Spirits, and these Unleashed Spirits are just 1/1 ephemerals, which you can pump with some cards. I will show you in the next few cards. But yeah, it's just a way to get ephemeral units. I only have 2 of those because it's just a 1/1 unit. It's not that great, so there are better cards you can use. But yeah, it's a nice card to get some ephemeral units onto the battlefield. Shark Chariot is one of the best payoffs you have in your deck. I will definitely urge you to play 3 of those because it's an amazing card. So whenever your ephemeral ally attacks and Shark Chariot is dead, you can return it to the, or you do return it to the play attacking. So you want to get this into the graveyard as soon as possible. You want to just play it even if it can't block, because it's a card that can't block. And you can still play it on your opponent's attack step, before your opponent's attack step, just to get it into the graveyard and just to get it back every single turn. And that's just an amazing card for 2 mana, just to have an attacker every time when you play an ephemeral. And you have so many ephemerals, you can definitely use that a lot of times. Silent Shadows here is one ephemeral that I definitely want to play 3 of as well, because it comes back a lot of times. It has elusive, so it cannot be blocked by any unit that is not elusive. And whenever it strikes the opponent's nexus, which will be pretty easy with an elusive unit, you can create a copy of it in your hand. So it comes back every turn, and you can just play it again and hit your opponent again and get an ephemeral unit on the battlefield every turn that might bring back some Shark Chariots, or that might turn out to do some other stuff for you. So that's a very nice card in this deck to have. I will definitely urge you to play 3 of those, because yeah, you can't have enough of those in your deck. Soul Shepherd is a nice card to boost your ephemerals. Whenever you summon an ephemeral, it gets +1/+1. I have to note that even if you remove the ephemeral with the Dedmark, you still have the +1/+1 on your creature there. So Soul Shepherd can definitely pump your board and make your creatures very, very strong. And since you're mostly playing ephemeral units, you're definitely gonna get a lot of use out of it. I'm currently playing 3. I might go down to 2 at some point, because yeah, sometimes it doesn't feel that great, but a lot of times it does really feel great to just have like 3 or 4 ephemeral units be pumped by the Soul Shepherd and make them stronger. It's just an amazing card all around. Darkwater Scorch is a card I only have 1 of in my deck, and I also only have 1 of because it has Lifelink. Lifelink is really the ability that, or Lifesteal it is called in Runeterra. I'm still working a bit on the magic side there. You have a card that has 5/5, which are amazing stats for a 3-mana creature, and yeah, it just gives you back 5 life whenever you hit something with it. So that's a very nice card to have. It is ephemeral, so you will only have it for 1 round if you don't use the Dedmark. But still, it's just amazing to have some kind of lifesteal in your deck. I only have 1 because, yeah, you don't need that much lifesteal, but against aggressive decks, it's sometimes nice to have those lifesteal cards. Dedmark, I've already talked a lot about. It's an amazing removal piece. It helps your creatures stick on the battlefield because they are not ephemeral anymore, and it also gets rid of anything of your opponent, really. And they can't do anything against it. They can't play barrier, and they can't pump it to protect it against damage, because that's not a damage ability, that's ephemeral. You have to note that whenever you make your opponent's creature ephemeral, they can still block for that turn, so you won't be able to get rid of it quickly, but you will get rid of it most of the time if your opponent doesn't play Deny. Speaking of Deny, yeah, Deny is just a card I have in every deck that uses Ionia. You can stop a fast spell, a slow spell, or a skill, and yeah, you will use that a lot of times just to protect your units, just to make your opponent's life miserable. For example, if they have an ability that cuts your nexus in half and you're at 20 and you don't want that, you can just deny that. So Deny is a very nice card to protect your board, to protect your life totals, and to protect your opponent, you from getting big cards on your opponent's side. Iren Harbinger is another ephemeral payoff. I only have 2 of those because a lot of the times it just dies a lot. It has 4 toughness, so you will, or 4 life, and you just will keep it a few rounds, but yeah, sometimes it just dies, and that doesn't feel that great. But it does get +1/+0 for each ephemeral ally that attacks with it, or that's on the battlefield when it attacks, and this will stick. This is not only for this round, this will stick, this power, so if your opponent can't deal with the Harbinger, it will get very, very big very, very quickly. So that's a nice thing to have, just to pressure your opponent's life total. They will need to deal with it, and you can get through with your other creatures while it attacks. And yeah, it's just a nice card to have in your deck as a payoff. Onslaught of Shadows I have 3 of, and you summon 2 Spectral Riders. Spectral Riders are ephemeral units that have 3/2. So it's comparable to the Haunted Relic I talked about, but those creatures are a lot better. And for 3 mana, I think it's a nice payoff to have. It does give you 1 less ephemeral creature, but most of the times you're gonna have the sharks in the graveyard, and maybe your Hecarim makes some more ephemerals. So you don't even need 3 ephemerals just to get your board full. Some of the times you're just gonna attack with 6 creatures anyway, even if you only make 2 new. So that's why I have 3 of those, because you don't really need that many ephemeral units in this deck. Speaking of many ephemeral units, Phantom Prankster is a card that rewards you for having a lot of ephemeral units in the deck, because whenever another ally dies, it deals 1 to the enemy nexus. So that's very nice to have. You do have to note that this card is pretty easy to kill, so it only has 0 power, so you can kill it with cards that say when your opponent has 0 power, you can kill it. You can also kill it just with a free damage spell. But if it sticks, it can do a lot of damage, especially if you have multiples on the battlefield and you attack with a lot of ephemerals every turn. You could just burn your opponent down with it very easily, so that's an easy free card of those. Very nice card to have in your deck. Now we come to our first champion, Zed, of which I have 2 in this deck. Zed creates a living shadow when it attacks, so a living shadow is basically an ephemeral copy of Zed, so you do have some ephemeral an ephemeral engine in your deck. You can also level up your Zed when 2 of Zed's copies or Zed itself and a copy get through to your opponent's nexus. You have a 4/3, so better ephemerals that will be created, and you can also use, if you have a Zed on the battlefield and you draw the other set, you could use it to recall your unit and place a living shadow. Maybe to protect your Hecarim or something. I didn't use it that much because I only have 2 copies of Zed. You don't gonna have this ability a lot of times. Also, Zed is pretty easy to kill. It does have quick attacks, so your opponent will need to have a creature that is 4 toughness or more and also 2 power or more blocking it. But you really can't block that much with Zed itself. So even though it's a sticking creature that makes you ephemerals every turn, I only have 2 of those, but it's still a very nice card for 3 mana just to get an ephemeral engine on the battlefield. Kinku Lifeblade is, the same really I can tell about the Darkwater Scorch. It's just a lifelink or lifesteal creature that you use to keep your deck afloat, especially against aggressive decks or decks that have elusives. Because it has elusive, it can block those elusives and also gain your life back while it does. And it can also get through to your opponent if they don't have elusives and just hit them with their life steal ability every turn. So that's a nice card just to keep you alive against those aggressive decks. It does cost 4 mana, and yeah, it's not that durable. It's also not an ephemeral unit, so you won't have the ephemeral payoffs. But on the other hand, you can keep it on the battlefield. So that's a nice card to have some lifesteal. And that also goes for the next card, Grasp of the Undying. You just drain 3 from a unit. I'm still debating with myself whether to put in 1 more Vengeance or 1 less Grasp of the Undying. But I think that's a nice combo, 1 Grasp and 1 Vengeance, just as the Grasp can do some great things in the in the early to mid game, just getting rid of some creatures that are bugging you and also gaining some life back, especially against those aggressive decks. You can kill an Elise with that, for example. That's a very nice thing to have, and that's why I'm playing Grasp here. Hecarim, that's the namesake of the deck, although you don't need the Hecarim to win with this deck. But Hecarim is an insane ephemeral payoff. It creates 2 ephemerals, 2 Spectral Riders, which we already saw from another card, whenever it attacks. And when 8 of your ephemerals have attacked, it levels up, gains better stats, and also gives your ephemeral allies +2/+0. So whenever you attack with your ephemerals and your Hecarim is leveled up, you're just gonna do so much damage with the sharks and everything getting back. You're just gonna have a lot of great things you can do. You also get, of course, those 2 Spectral Riders, which will be 5/2 at that point. If you draw multiple Hecarims, you can still use them to get some more Spectral Riders if you even need that. Most of the times I'm just gonna keep the Hecarim back as a backup. But yeah, that's just a very nice card. It's the namesake of the deck. It's a card you wanna play whenever you can. Of course, you're not gonna keep it in your opening hand because it has 6 mana, so you will need to draw into it. But when you do, you can keep it on the battlefield. It's also just a very nice body to block. A 4/6 is nothing to snuff at, and you can block a lot of damage with that. So you always have to think about how you want to use it. Some of the times you just want to keep it back and wait until you can level it up just to get the ephemeral benefit, and you don't even need to attack with the Hecarim anymore. You just have a lot of ephemerals that can attack on their own. So yeah, Hecarim, definitely a nice late game finisher for you. That will do a lot of things, that will also get you through the mid game just with its stats. So, and finally we have 2 removal spells. I have Vengeance, kill a unit for 7 mana. It's very expensive compared to Grasp or stuff like the Black Spear, but you have the ability to kill everything with it. So if your opponent has a leveled up Tryndamere or a leveled up Darius that you really want to get rid of, this is your card that you want to have. I only have 1 in the deck at the moment, but I can see you just playing 2 of those, and I don't think 3 are. I think 3 are a bit too much, but you can try around with it a bit. I think it's a nice card to have. Also, the Ruination, that's just your late game security piece in case your opponent really gets away on board state and yeah, you are just about to lose the game. With the Ruination, you can sometimes just nuke them all away, and your opponent will have a very bad time. You can play your stuff after you've nuked away their stuff, and yeah, a lot of the times this will save you some games. You do need to draw into it. You do need to have a lot of luck drawing into it, because it is 9 mana and you only want to play really 1 of those. And yeah, if you don't draw it, that's, yeah, you're just gonna lose at some points. But if you draw it, it can really change your game up, and you're gonna have a very good time with this card. So this was the deck. You find the deck code in the description. You will also find links to the gameplay videos and also to the deck building aspect where I built the first version of this deck. I hope you liked this video. I hope you liked the style of video. Tell me if you want to see more of those. And until next time, this is TCG Deck Tech signing off.